a little bit of backstory that I don't really get into in the book is some of the weird things that were happening in that house we were living in, because there was some supernatural things going on there. And I say that because I think it's important to lay that baseline, because I've been asked on other shows. I was a guest on a podcast a couple of years ago, and somebody asked me, do you think it was something other than Bigfoot that you might have experienced in the woods? So I'd like to start there and sort of lay the foundation. We moved into this house, and we were in a really small town. And when I say small town, I don't even think the town had a caution light. It was that small. I think it was like a 4-way stop. And everybody knew everybody. So before we moved into this house, the gentleman who owned it, we were renting it from him. His 2 sons had lived there before us. And there was a lot of rumors about some of the things that they were into. They were supposedly into devil worship, demonic activity, and those kind of things. And when we moved into the house initially, the first thing I did was go outside. I'd never had any kind of land to roam on, and this house had tons of property around it. So we didn't own it, but we had access to it because we rented this place from this gentleman. So I stayed out in the woods, and there was this really cool creek area that I would go to with a bunch of rock and water running through the rocks. It's kind of hard to explain. It wasn't like creek rock. It was solid rock foundations and formations that this water was running into. I thought it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen as an 11 or 12-year-old.
Yeah.
But there were some weird things that I found in and around the water. There was things that looked out of place. They looked like they were man-made bowls and weird spoons and other things. And I found some things that looked like they were possibly, I don't know, made out of cow skulls and things like that. As a kid, I thought there were cows in that area, so I thought maybe it just naturally died there. But in retrospect, knowing what I know now, it was probably something that a person had placed there. And I found that a little peculiar, but I'm, like I said, 11 and 12 years old. You don't really think about those things. So the real things that started happening inside the house were what really let me know that something was going on. I started hearing voices in the house. I would have this weird feeling that I was being watched when I was in the house. I would hear scratching, and I was waking up a lot of times. I say a lot of times, I mean, maybe 6 or 8 times over the course of a couple of years. I would wake up to this dark figure standing at the foot of my bed, to the point where I wouldn't stay in my own room. Most often I would get up, I would take a blanket, and I would end up sleeping at the foot of my mom and dad's bed or somewhere on the floor in their room, because I was petrified to stay in my own room.